over 30 years, Point of Grace has shared music, faith, and friendship with listeners across the country. Now Denise, Lee, and Shelley are inviting you into their circle. Welcome to Circle of Friends, the podcast.
It's Point of Grace.
Each week they're talking real life, current events, stories of true friendship, wisdom from God's Word, and all their favorite things. If you're looking for a little company, a few laughs, and a lot of Jesus to hold it together, Circle of Friends, the podcast is waiting for you. Subscribe now wherever you listen or watch podcasts, and circle up with Point of Grace.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake it off with Mert and Lucas. Live starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Love that. What is that called, Alan?
I vote for this to be the whole hour song. Backwards Boogie by Lazarus V. Backwards Boogie 2, actually.
Wow. Do you want to talk about backwards? In her 2025 memoir, 107 Days, which chronicles her brief 2024 presidential campaign, Kamala Harris described one of her VP contenders, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, as poised, polished, and personal. But she didn't pick him, of course. In her book, she shares a conversation during the VP vetting process where Shapiro expressed a desire to be involved in, quote, each and every decision, end quote, she made as president, which she responded, quote, I told him bluntly that was unrealistic expectation. A vice president is not a co-president. Now, if he made that request, which I'm not sure he did, but let's take Kamal's word for it, that was sort of weird. Is his lieutenant governor involved in each and every decision he makes as governor? I doubt it. Now, Harris also wrote that she had a nagging, quote, she had a nagging concern that he would be unable to settle for the role as a number 2 and that it would wear on our partnership. I had to be able to completely trust the person in that role, end quote. So apparently she was concerned. She didn't trust him for some reason or another. Additionally, she noted that before their formal meeting, Shapiro had inquired about the number of bedrooms at the vice presidential residence and whether the Smithsonian would loan art from its collection to decorate the residence. That was another weird tidbit. I'll agree with that. But as for why she ultimately selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz over Shapiro, her book indicates it was largely a gut decision based on personal chemistry and trust. She claims she connected with him, she felt an immediate rapport, and saw him as a loyal, quote-unquote, team member that would, quote-unquote, have her back. Now, in contrast, concerns about his Shapiro concerned his perceived overambition, which we talked about, potential conflicts from his strong pro-Israel stance. We're going to talk about that. Support for school vouchers, his handling of a sexual harassment claim against a former aide, and a complex legal case. But really, what supposedly killed it for Shapiro was that he wasn't going to give her a significant boost in Pennsylvania. Apparently, polls suggest that he wasn't going to help her, so that diminished his value. Walz, meanwhile, brought Midwestern appeal, a record of winning over moderate and rural voters, and had a folksy style that she was comfortable with. Bottom line, yeah, what's that? Was the audience going crazy there?
Oh, we're all laughing at all this, by the way, because it's just ridiculous. But
well, that's exactly what Shapiro said. Shapiro's out with his own memoir, and before he came out with the memoir, he's disputed what Harris has been talking about and has called them, ready for this, Mert, blatant lies and, quote-unquote, and an attempt to, quote, cover her you-know-what. Okay? The rear. How about that? We'll use that. Now, in his 2026 memoir, it got really explosive because her team supposedly asked him inappropriate questions about his Jewish background and his potential ties to Israel, and that's been making the news. Look, even the audience is shocked. Do you think it was the right thing to do, Mert, to talk about his ties to Israel and to question his connection with Israel?
You gave me all that just to ask me that simple question.
yeah, because it's called a setup. I was trying to set it up.
That's a long setup.
Yeah, she went for Waltz because she liked his Fosse style. She trusted him. But in the meantime, she didn't like Shapiro. And one of the questions that came up during his vetting process, Mert, was, ready for this, someone on Harris's team, apparently her White House counsel, Dana Remus, asked Shapiro whether he had ever been, ready for this, an agent of the Israeli government.
There's more. So you weren't even through. Okay, no. Let me say this.
Do you think it was appropriate? So let me clarify. Do you think it was appropriate for them to ask Shapiro whether he was an agent of the Israeli government just because he's Jewish?
Listen, I don't know if that's true or not. They could make up stuff. They could be saying that he could be saying that because he didn't like that he wasn't picked. I think that this is what happens a lot. Every community does this. When something doesn't go their way, they come up with a reason why it didn't work out for them. And this might be simply that. I don't think she was looking, wait a minute, he's qualified, but he's some kind of agent of chaos for Israel. I don't think she was sitting around thinking about that type of stuff. I think there was something that rubbed her the wrong way about him, and that's why she didn't go with him. I don't think it had anything to do with him being Jewish because she's married to somebody who's Jewish. So if he was going to try to use being Jewish as some kind of eliminating factor, it wouldn't work with her because she's married to a Jewish individual. It would make sense for her to pick him. That could have been something.
But you think it was okay to ask him whether he was an Israeli agent? In fact, according to Shapiro, he writes that they also asked him whether he had ever spoken with undercover Israeli agents. So his reaction to that, according to his book, had I been a double agent for Israel? Was she kidding? I told her how offensive that question was. That's the point. Do you think it was okay to question his loyalty to the United States of America, to somehow say he was an agent for Israel? I think that was inappropriate.
Anybody who's sitting there saying, wow, that's highly inappropriate, are treating these individuals like they're babies because they know about affairs, they know about lying, they know about so many real world things that we see this stuff every day, but we try to act like it doesn't take place and it doesn't exist. She knew all his dirt and she was still considering him. He didn't get picked. Now he wants to talk about, well, this question was highly offensive. No, politics is not for the innocent. Politics is not for the weak. If he was so offended by that question, he should have removed himself from being considered as soon as she asked that question. But I'm a bet you anything that he didn't do that. He was sitting there waiting around, and once he got the result that, hey, we're not going to go with you, that's when it all of a sudden became offensive. I'm pretty sure he would have overlooked it if she would have picked him. So I don't want to hear any whining about, hey, that was an offensive question. She's married to someone who's Jewish, so I'm going to assume that she's not anti-Semitic, which would be what's implied with this type of question, that she could somehow be anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, or whatever.
I am not satisfied that just because you're married to someone that's Jewish gives you some sort of immunity. I think that there is anti-Semitism to
well, that's you.
Here.
If you ask me, I'm going to give her grace. You don't have to agree with that. I'm talking about how I feel. I'm going to give her grace and I'm going to give her a pass.
Well, a lot of people disagree with you. For example, Deborah Lipstadt, she's the U.S. anti-Semitism envoy under President Biden. Her quote was, "These questions were classic anti-Semitism." Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, said, quote, "Asking a prominent Jewish American public servant whether he was ever an Israeli double agent is not merely offensive, it's a textbook invocation of one of the oldest anti-Semitic canards in politics." It was deeply offensive given the historical underpinnings.
Flat second. Hold on a second, because this is what I do when black people do this, or when gays do this. They complain about being mistreated, but they don't ever talk about it until they're far removed from whatever they were in that they were being mistreated.
Oh, you're being a hypocrite because Kamala did the same thing. You're being a hypocrite. Kamala did the same thing when she covered for Biden and his aging and his loss of memory and his inability to serve as president. And you said it was okay for her to cover. This is not acceptable.
Once again, you're not making sense, because I'm not talking about cover. I'm talking about if he was so offended, he would have removed himself from consideration once that question came out.
Just like you said, Kamala didn't want to do that because she didn't want to kill the pooch, and she wanted to run for president, so she was covering for him. Well, maybe he wanted to be VP, and he didn't want to react.
He wanted to be vice president so bad he was willing to accept anti-Semitism.
But that doesn't make the inquiry appropriate. Okay, let's assume for the moment that does not make the inquiry appropriate. Alex, do you not agree with some of these commentators, including Aaron Key?
By the way, Mert, when the Anti-Defamation League, who actually seems to be anti-Semitic sometimes, says this is anti-Semitic, you know it's bad, because the ADL sometimes goes against the Jewish community in some cases, by the way. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or not. So yeah, this is a pretty bad thing, and as part of the vetting process, and by the way, his home got attacked, I believe, in an act of anti-Semitism. I mean, can we just highlight that too? All the odds were against him because he's Jewish, and you cannot deny that fact. And it hurts me to say that, because in a moment where I do think the left needs to come around and show some support for the Jewish Americans, this was totally the wrong move to not pick him.
Yeah, well, because she was trying to kowtow to certain constituencies, and they were afraid it would alienate Muslim communities among other groups if she went with the Jewish vice president. Doesn't matter who she's married to, Mert. It matters. We're talking about the VP pick, and one of the things that really irks me, and Alex, I'd like to hear what you think about this. Why didn't they ask Waltz if he was a double agent for China? Because that weirdo had been to China, like 30 times?
Didn't he celebrate his birthday at Tiananmen Square or something like that?
That was debunked. But that was a guy who went to China when it wasn't fashionable to go to China, and he went to honeymoon in China. It was a little unhealthy, his connection with China.
And the funny thing is, you don't know what they asked him, because guess what? He got picked. You don't know what would have came out if he didn't get selected.
I doubt they asked him.
You can have your doubts, but you don't know that for a fact. What I'm saying here is, if he was so offended, he should have came out at the time and said, "Hey, this woman thinks that I'm she thinks that I'm a agent for Israel. She's anti-Semitic." He should have came out and alerted the country that this is what was going on. But he allowed somebody who's supposed to be anti-Semitic to get up there and run, and he didn't say anything, because guess what? He was more than willing to be offended if it meant that selfishly he could become the vice president. It was a selfish move on his behalf.
You're being such a hypocrite. Alex, what was the name of Biden's press secretary who covered for Biden?
Oh, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah. And then after the presidency, after they lose the presidency, she writes this whole book about how, maybe they shouldn't have.
Whoa.
She comes out and speaks. No, it's not different.
No, it isn't different. And I'll tell you, I want to backpack on this.
Hold on before you go.
Go ahead, Alex. Hold on. Let
me go. It is different. Hold on a second. Let me go. It's different because she was paid to do a job. Her job is to be the speaker. Her job is not to have any opinions of anything else besides what's coming out of that administration.
It's not her job to lie. It's not
No,
her job to
it's
lie.
her job to tell the people what the White House wants them
It's
to know.
not her job to lie to
Anything
the American
else?
people. She lied to the American people. That's
Mert,
disgraceful.
where was your outrage when the Times finally admitted?
Well, who says I'm outraged?
Well, hold on. Where was
No,
your outrage?
he's asking you why you weren't.
Where was your outrage
just-
when the Times finally admitted that Biden needed teleprompters at events?
Who says I'm outraged? I'm just calling out what he's doing. If you're so offended, let everybody know. I don't want to vote for somebody who's anti-Semitic. But because he didn't say anything until now, guess what people have been led to do? In his words, I guess we voted for somebody who was anti-Semitic. If you voted for Kamala, is that what he would? If I asked him that, a vote for Kamala,
I don't think a lot of people would be surprised by that statement. Would you, Alex?
No, I would not be surprised by
She
that.
refused to meet with the Prime Minister when the Prime Minister came to town. You don't remember that? She disappeared and refused to meet with him, the Prime Minister of Israel. And there were ruminations. There was talk about the reasons for that. She didn't want to be seen near the Jewish leader.
Well,
she wanted to support the Hamas people.
Well, before you try to get all this out,
Washington.
let me respond to what you just said, because you're trying to throw a lot at me at one time, and it's a very skillful tactic, but I'm not going to let you do that. Because I would say this, is one black man better than the next? Is one Christian better than the next? Is one Jew better than the next? So if she didn't want to talk to one Jewish person, that doesn't mean she doesn't like Jewish people. That just means she didn't want to talk to that person. You can do this with any group. And it's very disruptive. It's very, it just makes me uncomfortable when people try to say stuff like that, because now you're putting people into a hard position where you almost have to be at the mercy of whoever you think somebody should talk to, because if they decide not to, now you're going to label them something that they might not be. And we already know she's married to somebody Jewish. So if she's willing to talk to her Jewish husband, but not the Prime Minister of Israel, are you saying she's anti-Semitic when it comes to Israel, but when it comes to her love life and her personal life, she's okay? It doesn't make sense.
That may be the case, Alex.
Look, I think that her refusal to do that, and also the questioning around this probably happened around the time of October 7th. Can you imagine asking someone who's Jewish watching, Jewish people be slaughtered this question? It's insane. It's actually incendiary.
I don't know what you're trying to do right there, but you're trying to amplify and make something out that we don't know if that's true or not. So I'm not going to go in that direction. So my point is this. If this woman was so bad, you should have rejected as soon as she put this information or put this question to you. You should have rejected it and let the whole country know this is what we're dealing with. But he didn't do that. And Jewish and anybody who's Jewish out there, I would ask you to ask him why he did that.
And that's what Jean-Pierre should have done, and that's what a lot of people should have done when they were faced with an ailing President Biden, Sleepy Joe. They all kept silent. They were Nancy Pelosi.
All right, I have some breaking news. Walz was also asked about foreign ties during Harris' vetting, according to CNN. So there was something there.
That eliminates your whole argument.
Foreign ties, or did they ask whether he was a Chinese agent?
That eliminates your whole argument because she clearly did it to both. Thank you, Alex.
So here's what it says: the Minnesota governor was asked by her vetting team if he had ever been an agent of China. So there was even questioning here.
So there you go, Lucas Ferrara. You've just been slammed in the face, and now your whole argument gets
not necessarily. Not necessarily, because here's the thing.
Does.
No, because I think if Shapiro wasn't Jewish and asked, that's a different question. But you're literally assuming it because he's Jewish. That's the problem here, Murr.
No, they might have intelligence linking him to these people.
They did not.
You don't know that. You don't know that. So we can say that, but we both don't know what's true, what's not
his
true.
argument's not defeated at all. I'm just saying, I'm proving what Lucas was asking earlier. Was he questioned about China? He was. But this is different. You're assuming it because he's Jewish. That's the problem here.
No. It's not different because he asked that question because he has ties to China. He might have ties to Israel, so it is the same. it applied to both candidates. So it's not something.
But if you consider the history of Judaism and anti-Semitism, where the Jews were always accused of being disloyal to whatever government country they lived in, this has deep underpinnings. And you know what? Whether or not you like it, it's now part of the conversation. It's the real one, the uncomfortable one. It's one that actually matters. You know what else matters? This is episode 82, Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. And you just heard from Mert. You've heard from our good friend Alex. When we come back, we'll be joined by Zach Shefska. He's the co-founder and CEO of Car Edge, a leading consumer advocacy platform. Mert, me, Alex, all of us at AM 970, The Answer will return after these quick messages. Stay right where you are. Don't wander. Don't blink.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
We can tell you about the incredible success we bring to local businesses, but it's better when it comes directly from our satisfied clients. Here's just one example.
After searching for a new vendor to handle my search marketing campaign, I contacted Salem Surround after seeing the great work they did for another restoration company in the different market. Their team of experts recommended a mix of multiple tactics designed to get my business the most quality leads at the lowest cost, making my marketing budget stretch further. In our first year partnering with Salem Surround, we recorded our best year to date, and I've told many people how blessed I was to find them. The representative answered the phone every time I called and quickly addressed any questions or concerns I had.
Let Salem Surround give you an absolutely free audit of your current marketing and show you what your competition is doing. Then, we come up with a personalized plan that's perfect for your needs. Google Salem Surround New York and let our marketing experts help you achieve real success. Remember to Google Salem Surround New York today.
You're listening to AM 970 The Answer, your trusted conservative voice. Now, New York City has a new trusted conservative TV network, Salem News Channel, home to the brightest minds in conservative opinion. And you can watch Salem News Channel free over the air with an antenna. Watch Salem News Channel on channel 45.7. Learn more at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill. From pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Hey, what's that music called, Alex?
All right, this is called Car Racing by Elisaveta Stoicheva.
Car racing. Perfect music for our next guest. Zach Shefska is the guy who looked at the car buying world, saw the chaos, and said, yeah, we can do better than this. He co-founded Car Edge with his dad, Ray, and together they've basically become the internet's consumer advocacy pit crew, breaking down pricing games, calling out nonsense, and giving regular folks like us the kind of data dealers wish you didn't have. Zach comes out of the tech world, so he brings the let's fix the system, not just complain about it energy. Under his watch, Car Edge has blown up across YouTube, TikTok, and everywhere people go when they're trying to figure out whether a dealer fee is real or just creative writing. Millions of shoppers lean on him for straight talk, transparency, and a little moral support before signing their lives away on a finance agreement. Outside the car trenches, Zach is an entrepreneur through and through. He's built companies, coached founders, written about business and consumer protection, and somehow still finds time to train for endurance races. He's got that mix of analytical brain and let's make life easier for people heart that makes him a natural guide through big, stressful decisions. In short, if you want someone who can decode the car market without putting you to sleep, Zach's your guy. Welcome to the program, Zach.
I don't know who the hell wrote that, but I'm fired up. That's incredible. Wow, what an intro. Thanks, guys, for having me. Grateful to be here.
Welcome to the show, Zach. Can I tell you, one of the most stressful experiences in my life is going to a car dealership to buy or lease a vehicle. I can't tell you how uncomfortable these dealerships make it for regular, and I'm a lawyer, how uncomfortable they make it for people. I don't go in and announce I'm a lawyer, but I think they resort to deception. They group other people on you, then they bring over the manager. What is going on? Why do they use these deceptive tactics and ploys? It's really annoying. Is it supposed to be stressful?
So I would say, I don't like to paint with too broad of a brush because there are people out there who try and operate an honest business, don't take advantage of consumers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the unfortunate reality is it's pretty doggone profitable to take advantage of an unsuspecting customer. And the reason I say that is because you don't actually make that much money selling new cars. The markup from invoice price to MSRP, it's not more than a few percentage points in most instances. And so a lot of the money gets made in these somewhat deceptive ways, meaning fees and add-ons and products the customer didn't ask for and the financing, things like that. So unfortunately, incentives drive a lot of decision-making, and the incentives in the auto industry and retail auto are that you make more money if you are a little bit deceptive, if you grind the customer down. And so again, without painting too broad of a brush, there's a lot of operators out there that choose that business model because, it makes them more money.
Yeah, but isn't the problem, Zach? Sticker price isn't really the government operative number, and there's no transparency in the numbers. So unless you're smart enough to call, check out your website or to go to go to some expert to guide them through, they're going to get duped. It's inevitable. No, they're going to pay more because that's how they pocket more.
Yeah, I do think that in most cases, an uneducated consumer will be taken advantage of. If for nothing else, they just don't know what they don't know. Then you tap on top of that. There are, again, a lot of salespeople or dealerships or operators who do choose to employ tactics like bait and switch pricing, for example, or mandatory add-ons, things like that. That ultimately are just, doesn't matter how savvy you are, if you choose to do business with a bad operator, you're going to get taken advantage of. And so it is unfortunate that spending that much money requires, outside support, but it also has given me meaning in my life for the past 6 years, and I get to do it with my dad, who was one of those good operators in the business, and now we get to, have an even bigger impact than when he was just working at one dealership.
Well, let me ask this question, Lucas.
Okay, it's the Murdinator, Zach. Watch out for the Murdinator.
When you get into this type of advocacy, as I would put it, because you're doing a service for people where you might, people might feel like they've been taken advantage of. How easy would it be for the average person to do all this research and find this information out for themselves? Because I agree with you. Well, I don't know if I agree with you, but I agree with some of these car companies that if you're not going to do your research, if you're not going to connect the dots and read your contracts, and I throw some stuff in there and I get you, I'm trying to make a living just like everybody else. Everybody else is trying to find an edge, an advantage. So how difficult would it be to find all this information?
Yeah, to be clear here, I see both sides of it. So I want to be clear. I do not think, especially when I share the amount of time that needs to go into figuring out how to get a fair car deal, I do not think it should take a full-time job for 2 weeks, 80 hours of your life to, know that you're not overpaying on the second largest transaction in your life. So it is crazy to me that the auto industry operates in this way. It could be so much more efficient. That's my big word, transparency and efficiency. Those are really the two key themes for me. But I would say if you're not spending a couple weeks in advance, I'm not talking about doing car research. Like, do your research, go test drive cars, figure out what car you want. But then a couple weeks just making sure you understand how you're actually going to pay for that vehicle, what the structure of a car deal is, if you have a trade-in, the financing, if you're going to lease it. There's 2 weeks worth of dedicated kind of nose to the grindstone. I'm going to understand and do my market research and contact dealers. And again, I think that's crazy. You're spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Why do you need to be, spending 2 weeks of your life doing a bunch of research? But again, that's a bit of the reality of today's market. And like I said a moment ago, there are people out there that just walk into a dealership and say, "Hey, I want my payment to be no more than $500 a month." They have no clue what they paid for the car. They have no clue if they financed or leased it, but they got that payment. And so I can see both sides of it. But definitely, of course, I'm an advocate for consumers to make informed decisions and to have the resources they need to do that.
So how much would it cost to buy a car if they didn't try to sell it in a reasonable amount? What would it actually, do you know these answers? How much would they actually need to sell these cars for them to make a profit where they wouldn't have to get you with all this extra stuff? Could you answer that?
I mean, it's interesting because there are now more and more startup companies that are trying to sell direct to consumer. A good example of that would be Scout Motors. They're part of Volkswagen, but they're selling direct to consumer. And dealers nationwide are afraid of this. But the reason I bring them up is because the whole intent with Scout Motors is to undercut competition on pricing. Well, why can they afford to do that? They're paying fewer people. There's fewer middlemen. There's no sales commission, salesperson, sales manager. So if you get rid of the games, the industry becomes a lot more efficient. If the industry is more efficient, you can drop the prices down. So I don't want to make it sound like the cost of cars would go, drop by 50%, but there's probably 10, 20% slack in the system right now where customers are paying for the inefficiency of how it operates.
I'm going to say this. It's just like people who fly on Spirit Airlines. The ticket costs $70, but you got to pay $300 for the bags. If you want a discount, people are going to get you somewhere. If you want your car payment to be $200 a month and you're driving a BMW, they're going to get you somewhere. So
get excited for your 120-month car loan. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So it's I think people understand that, okay, this got to be too good. This is too good to be true. But they're giving it to me, so they feel like, I'm willing to pay $200 for, the next 150 months. But I'm only paying $200 a month. So it's I think people set themselves up to be taken advantage of. But I think it's also a good idea what you're doing, because what about the people who really don't know what's going on at all? I think your service helps them out the most.
Definitely, and I would say, if you are someone who in your personal life doesn't necessarily like to be antagonizing, kind of macho and aggressive, you should be able to get the same car deal as the man or woman who does like to be antagonizing, macho, and aggressive. That has never made sense to me. Why should the quality of a car deal be predicated on how aggressive I am in a negotiation? That has never made sense to me, and so I'm a huge advocate for, like I said, transparency and efficiency. Everyone should be able to get the same deal because it's a commodity at the end of the day. And, we see some really egregious things that remind me of how important this is. People getting stuck with interest rates that are ridiculous and end up costing them $10,000 more than they should have paid over the lifetime of the loan, or thousands of dollars in fees that they didn't realize they were paying for. So Yeah, unfortunately, this is what happens, but there are a lot of people, like you said, who just want the payment, don't even know what they're signing up for. Can't help those people if they don't seek out some input.
And that's why they should check out your website. Zach, we have to take a quick commercial break, but have no fear. When we return, Zach will rejoin us. You can learn more about his company, CarEdge.com. Of course, we'll have the link posted on our website, ShakeItOffLive.com. Mert, Alex, Zach, and I hope you stay right where you are. If you want to buy a car without getting taken for a ride, Zach's company is essential. Check out CarEdge for the tools, the data, and the straight talk. More when we come back.
Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to NewmanFerrara.com. That's NewmanFerrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. MyPillow and MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $17.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 and the 6-pack towel set for only $39.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP or call 800-651-0798. These offers won't last long, so call 800-651-0798 or go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use the promo code JOEP or call 800-651-0798. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free. Unity Bank is dedicated to community-oriented banking and offers a full range of services including business and personal accounts, business loans, and mortgages. Unity has locations throughout New Jersey and in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, expanding its footprint to 21 retail locations. If you're a small business owner, you know how frustrating it is to be a nobody at the big banks. You should be banking at a community bank like Unity. You can have a personal relationship with the president and CEO, my good friend Jim Hughes. Jim asks that you call him directly at 908-713-4306, 908-713-4306, or send an email to james.hughes, Hughes, at unitybank.com, and Jim will get right back to you. You can't get this type of service at the big banks. Visit unitybank.com. FDIC insured, equal opportunity employer, and equal housing lender. Unity Bank, growing with you.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. We've been speaking with Zach Shefska. He's the co-founder and CEO of CarEdge, where he's built one of the most trusted consumer advocacy platforms in the auto industry by arming buyers with data, transparency, and leverage. He's a leading voice on car market trends, demystifying pricing, dealerships, and negotiations so consumers can make smarter, more confident decisions. You can learn more about Zach and his company at caredge.com. And in fact, if you want to check out Zach's personal website, go to Shefska.com. That's SHEFSKA.com. Interesting website there. And of course, we'll have links posted on our website, ShakeItOffLive.com. Zach, you having fun?
Hey, so glad to be here, guys. This is really nice.
Lucas, let me ask a question before you go. What are some of the horror stories that got you to want to do this in the first place? Like, is there a personal experience that made you say,
I was thinking the same. You're not striking me as a car guy, Lucas.
So, yeah, actually my interest in this is because my dad worked in the industry. And, of course, in my career now, I've seen terrible people taking advantage in terrible ways. But actually my interest in doing this is the fact that he worked so much for the car business, and I didn't see him growing up, and it really pissed me off. And I lost my mom 9 years ago, and it was only after my mom passed away from lung cancer that my dad finally retired. And I realized my dad's actually a good guy. He was just trying to make a living for his family, and that's when I got really pissed off at the car business. My dad would work half days, is what he would call them, 12-hour days, and I didn't understand it at the time. And obviously, I connected the dots through those conversations. But yeah,
was he like an oracle that was able to tell you, look here, this is the thing that to look out for. This is what you should put into your program or whatever the computer system you make it to help people out. This is what it should contain. This is the things to look out for. Was he actually able to do this? Because he was that one at one point in time, one of these bad guys that you're trying to defend people from these days. Was your father one of them?
I actually. So yeah, I mean, my dad definitely knows. He's a subject matter expert through and through. But I would actually say he was held back in his career significantly because he wouldn't take advantage of customers in a way that would make stores more profitable. So no, I mean, he was trying to do the stuff that we do as consumer advocates today at the dealership level. And obviously that's a challenging thing to do, hard to get someone to trust you. And so 6 years in now, we've helped millions of people buy cars. And fortunately, my dad has played a really important role in that. And obviously has taught me everything I know about the car business.
Now, if someone needs a car today, not 6 months from now, today, what's your blunt, no-nonsense advice?
The most important thing, if you're listening to this, is the words out-the-door price. So if you take anything away from this, it's that. If you're buying a new or used car, it doesn't matter. The price that you need to get from a dealership is called the out-the-door price. What that is the actual selling price of the vehicle plus any fees, add-ons, taxes, etc. And the reason you want to ask for the out-the-door price is because the price you see online is typically not the actual price of the vehicle. It's missing the dealer dock fee. It's missing the fees. And the reason you ask for that is so that you can start to compare apples to apples, dealership to dealership. So my biggest piece of advice if you're going to buy a car now is ask for the out-the-door price. And then once you have an out-the-door price, do some market research to get a sense for what a fair price for that vehicle is. But at a minimum, just ask for the out-the-door price. That's the most important thing.
EVs, still the future, or are consumers hitting the brakes on electric vehicles?
I mean, all the data suggests that there's going to be a slowdown, or there already is a slowdown in electric vehicle sales. And I think if the federal government is no longer subsidizing them, it's pretty clear to me that they're not going to be as mainstream as we once thought. Many of the automakers have already walked back, the investments they had made into electric vehicles as well. Many EVs that had been planned for production are not going to make it to market from legacy automakers. So EVs certainly seem like they're slowing down, and there's nothing that tells me that that trend will not continue unless a new administration comes in a few years. Then maybe things will look up a little bit different. But for the foreseeable future, I think EVs had their moment. They will always be around, but not in the mass quantities that people had expected.
What's the biggest mistake people make when negotiating?
Focusing on the monthly payment instead of the out-the-door price. That is without a doubt the biggest mistake folks make. When you focus just on the monthly payment, you're not paying attention, to all the variables that go into that monthly payment, meaning what the actual selling price is, the interest rate, the loan term length, if you have a trade-in or any cash down. All these variables end up just getting put into a black box, And as a customer, you might end up with a payment, like, we said earlier, that you're comfortable with, but you have no clue if you're actually paying a fair price, if they're taking advantage of you on your trade, et cetera, et cetera. So the biggest mistake customers make is walking in there thinking, okay, I just need this price and I'm good to go, this monthly payment price, I'm good to go, and not understanding the variables that go into it.
Now, you've seen the industry from the inside and the outside. What's one reform you'd make tomorrow if you had a magic wand?
It's the thing I'm working on day in and day out. One of the things I'm most passionate about are these existing third-party websites. So, cars.com, for example, Car Gurus, et cetera. They all show advertised prices of cars, but they're not actually the selling price of the vehicles. And, the FTC has tried to do some work here to clean that up, and we haven't seen any of those rules go through. And so one of my biggest passion projects is just bringing transparent, honest-to-goodness pricing to the internet for cars, which is, I know it should be simple, but tragically it's not the case. That's like the biggest thing I'm personally working on that I'm passionate about.
And how does Car Edge help our listeners? Why go to Car Edge? What can it do for them?
Yeah, so a couple things. Probably the simplest one is we offer services to help you buy a car. So you tell us what you're interested in. We've got a variety of different ways that we'll actually represent you to a degree and get pricing on your behalf. So contacting dealerships, confirming availability, leveraging that market data to drive down the price as well. So our whole platform, we only make money from consumers. That's our position in the market, and it's all because we, actually provide these car buying services. So if you're in the market to buy a car and you think maybe you'd benefit from some help, we offer various services to actually, do the hard work for you.
Like what? Can you give us an example?
Sure. I mean, customers every day come in and use our car buying service, and they'll say, hey, I'm interested in, a Toyota 4. We'll then go contact 10, 15, 20 Toyota dealerships that have that vehicle, get the out-the-door prices, pit them against one another, land on the lowest price or the best deal, and share that information back with our customers. So, that's tactically and practically what it looks like, to buy a car through Car Edge, which is a lot different, obviously, than you yourself having to go call 10, 15, 20 dealers and, deal with all that rigmarole. So that's really at its core what the service that we provide.
What's the next big consumer trap you see coming in the auto world? The next
I think this affordability crisis that we're in right now is going to lead to a lot of people, an affordability crisis meaning the average transaction price for a new car is over $50,000, which is crazy. I think a lot of people are going to end up having to buy used cars as a result. And so one of the potential traps or pitfalls would be people buying used cars without getting a pre-purchase inspection. And so a pre-purchase inspection is just like a home inspection. You need to have an independent mechanic, an independent set of eyes, look over a used vehicle before you buy it. And so that is one of the potential pitfalls or traps for consumers in today's market. More people, because they can't afford a $50,000 new car, which I don't blame them, that's crazy, they're going to buy used, but they got to make sure they get a pre-purchase inspection before they buy it. And if a dealer won't let you do a pre-purchase inspection, that's a red flag. Don't buy the car. There's a very good reason why they're not going to let you do that inspection, and obviously you shouldn't buy that vehicle.
Unfortunately, Zach, we have run out of time. It was a pleasure having you on the program. You can learn more about Zach and his company at caredge.com. I have that right, Zach?
You've got it right. You've been so kind to me, guys. I really am grateful for this opportunity. Thanks so much.
And check out his personal website, too, Shefska.com. And, of course, we'll have links posted on our website, Shake It Off Live. Thank you, Zach. It was an absolute pleasure. Well, my friends, that concludes show number 82. May I hear an amen? Amen. Oh, the audience is slow tonight. Special thanks to the Murdinator, Mert Roberts, my co-host, for 82 amazing episodes. That's 164 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, folks, you try it. Thanks to Alex Gabbard. And say hello to Gabby Pisani, who's home. Thank you. We love you, Gabby. We couldn't do this without you. And to everyone behind the scenes at AM 970. Laura Schaefer, Matthew Samblin, Joe Sabia, Frank Volpe, everyone, even Ryan Pagano, just to name a few. We couldn't do it without you, and we appreciate you. Before we go, I want to remind everyone, check out my movies. They're streaming everywhere. My latest hit is Manor of Darkness. It's an eerie time loop horror. You'll find it on Amazon, Google Play, and YouTube. The New York Times recommended it as a top 5 film to stream just this past month. So go and check it out. Also, check out Help, Makeup, 5,000 Space Aliens, and Children of the Pines. Next up, one of my favorite shows on AM 970, Culinary Confidential with Christina Gates. If you're a foodie, that's the show for you. I love her program. She's got amazing guests. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned for Culinary Confidential coming up next. Join us next week when we'll have more controversial topics, more special guests, just for you. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
For over 30 years, Point of Grace has shared music, faith, and friendship with listeners across the country. Now Denise, Lee, and Shelley are inviting you into their circle. Welcome to Circle of Friends, the podcast.
It's Point of Grace.
Each week they're talking real life, current events, stories of true friendship, wisdom from God's Word, and all their favorite things. If you're looking for a little company, a few laughs, and a lot of Jesus to hold it together, Circle of Friends, the podcast is waiting for you. Subscribe now wherever you listen or watch podcasts, and circle up with Point of Grace.